just to begin, back in the mid-'80s when you began, what sort of music scene were we looking at in Tasmania back in those days? What was happening down there?
There's always... What was happening then? Well, it was sort of post-Franklin River campaign, so there was a lot of folkies, a lot of songs about saving the forests, and a lot of people singing and playing. And there was a couple of different pubs, but the main pub that everyone seemed to gather around was a place called the Doghouse Hotel, and that's where the Wild Pumpkins started. And we started playing there on a Monday night, which was a folk night in 1983, and we just started singing old protest songs with other sort of people that were doing that sort of stuff, and writing our own stuff. I mean, we were very young and idealistic. I can hardly even remember John much about that. Yeah, I think it's still going on though, which is awesome. You know, there's a couple of generations down the track, people are, the issues are the same, and the music keeps expressing and reflecting the needs of the environment, and it was a particular time in Tasmania. Yeah.
Talking about the formation of the Wild Pumpkins, where did you all meet initially?
Well, I was actually Deb and two other guys, Michael McDougall and Ashley Vincent Hazelwood III, had a band called Tintagil's Lament, and they needed a bass player, and I had a double bass. I had a double bass from school. I was playing at school, and I came along and played the double bass and hated the name, so I changed the name, and then the other guys kind of left, and then Dan joined. That's how it started.
So I guess coming across to the mainland was at some point inevitable. Was Melbourne the obvious choice?
Yeah, well, it was the closest, and the other thing is we got a job on the boat. We got a couple of jobs on the boat where we played 3 sets for our passage across. So we came across to Melbourne twice before we moved over to Melbourne, which was really handy. Yeah, and it was like, the mainland. It was the mainland. For Tasmanians, I think it's still so. It's the big smoke. It's the mainland, and you got to go there. I mean, we played all over Tasmania, John. We played. We did these tours where we went to all little far-flung halls all over Tasmania and did a couple of times, and we just wanted to play to new audiences, and just play to bigger places and more people and have more fun and, get our music out there, as you do when you're young, you're young and ambitious, and, you got to hop across that expanse of water, which is a very big gulf in Tasmania.
Yeah,
and it's probably less so now, with the internet and the way the world is now compared to when it was like 30 or so years ago, but it's still a big expanse of water, even though it's a relatively short distance.
For sure. Now, the online Wikipedia entry for the band has you listed as being on 8 different record labels in your time. In hindsight, was that a little unsettling for the band, not having a place to call home?
I mean, in hindsight, look, I could talk about the band in all kinds of different ways. And Dan and I sort of, who ended up as the ones in the band with Mel, we were the original members still left at the end. We still get together every couple of years, and we have a good joke about hindsight, But I guess it was no way. It was unsettling. I'd have to say it was unsettling, but we weren't really aware of that at the time. We were just doing that. We were doing the thing that was happening at the moment, and just trying to get our records out, and we basically didn't sell any records, John. So, we ended up with another label because we didn't sell any of the one that we were just on. We just put out. So they didn't really want to do another one. And our first record deal was actually for 5. We got completely ripped off. It was for 5 records, and we ended up doing 3 records with them. But they went belly up, that company. So we ended up having to sort of we ended up having to kind of sneak into their office and get all our records, do all our records. Oh yeah. The stories I could tell you, but I wouldn't want to repeat if I could remember. Yeah.
Now, the first Wild Pumpkins record I owned was "This Machine Is Made of People," which was quite a project, really. And tell us about the logistics of putting that together.
Well, it came from a couple of people in Tasmania who were really into the band and wanted us gave us an offer to do a particular project. It was actually the arts officer of the ACTU based in Hobart found some money to do a songwriting project, and he advertised it, but he basically headhunted us to go to different work sites. And actually, I was talking with a friend the other day. One of the guys that was really helped us a lot in that project was former and now deceased Premier Jim Bacon, who was a big advocate of and was a former secretary of the Australian Workers Union, I think it was. But he was a big help with that project. And so basically what we did is we went around to various workplaces. I mean, the union movement, I guess, was looking for different ways to attract and, give a new kind of image to itself in different ways. And so they had wanted to go back to the sort of songwriting roots. So we went all over Tasmania. Dan and I went all over Tasmania to various companies and places where we went down the mines in a little place called Zion, and we stayed over there for a few weeks, and then we went to a couple of hospitals and some government centres, and we went to the EZ Zinc Works, and where else did we go? We went to a few other places, and we basically we had a brief to locate and liaise with artists that were doing stuff in the workplace, and that were reflecting their working conditions or what, and talk to them and see what they were doing, and maybe collaborate with them, which we did a lot over on the West Coast with the miners. There was a couple of amazing people, miners, who were playing music and writing songs about their life and that, and we worked with those guys, and we basically spent time with people in the workplace as much as we could, and then we wrote a batch of songs that was as reflective as possible from our experiences, and then we recorded them into that album, This Machine Is Made of People, and that's that album. Unfortunately, it didn't get the kind of airplay, even though it did win that ARIA award for Best Independent Release of 1989. It didn't really get the kind of airplay and the exposure that it might have got, and largely it was because the record company was kind of going belly up, and our lineup was, Deb basically needed to leave the band, and so she kind of left in the midst of that, and so it didn't really get as much. I never felt like it got as much as exposure as the project kind of deserves, because I thought it was but having said that, for us as artists and songwriters, it was extremely rewarding experience spending that kind of half a year of 1988, running around Tasmania into all kinds of situations and meeting all kinds of people that we would have never kind of met or had those experiences. So in that way, it was really great.
What about the ARIA itself? Did it help in terms of raising profile for the band?
Yeah, it didn't. It probably would have if we'd had better management. And I think, that's also what Dan and I sort of smile about. We never had really good management, and so that's why we ended up on different record labels and, always sort of hustling ourselves, because we ended up, like a lot of bands, independent kind of bands do, especially back then, you end up managing yourself a lot of the time, and then, management was a big problem for us, and especially we learnt as we went along, but, of course the ARIA Award did help, and, and I mean, in our profiles today, we can say we're ARIA Award-winning musicians.
Right.
And, I mean, so, people sort of use that, and that means something to people, it's something to hang your hat on, but at the time it didn't really do much at all, and, we weren't even, the record company went to the ARIAs, but we weren't invited to come to them or anything, so it was a bit of a, I don't know, it was a bit of an anticlimax for me, really. I've still got the thing. It's a really handy thing to keep my books on the shelf. It's very heavy.
Now, you relocated to London before you wound up in the Netherlands, is that right? That's
right, yeah. We went to London. We kind of followed other bands that had gone to London, but we were a bit too late. Australia was certainly not the flavour of the month anymore over there. We did spend 3 or 4 months living, spend all our sort of savings and live there and try to sort of get some traction in London. And we did, we had some really good gigs. We had, some sellout gigs full of expats, which went really well at really cool kind of clubs. And we supported Crowded House, which was really good, Paul Hester was a big supporter of us, and he kind of helped us a bit. And that was good, because we played some sellout crowds there, of course. They were huge then, Crowded House. And but London was really hard. It was really hard to find anywhere to practice, and when we could practice, we had to pay a lot of money, and the gear was shit, and it was very expensive there. But also Deb leaving the band in 1989, we kind of reformed a little bit with Ashley Davies, and he became our drummer, and we changed our sound, a bit, and I think what our records had done in London, which was a little bit really, like we had a lot of interest from some labels over there that really wanted to sign us, but they really wanted to sign the old sound, like the band, the label Cooking Vinyl, which was a great label for us. I think it was probably even before Michelle Shocked was on their label, but they loved Deb's voice, and they wanted that. They loved our new album without Deb, but they really wanted Deb's voice, and so they kind of went. I remember him coming to our, what's his name? I can't remember his name. He's a nice guy, but he really loved the band and wanted to put us on his label and do it all, but he just said, look, I just wanted that voice. So Dan and I, by that stage, we were still bitter about her leaving and stuff. We were like,
yeah. So overall, how were you received in Europe? Were there certain areas where the band went over better than others?
Well, London was completely different. So that was London, and then we had some gigs booked in festivals in Germany and Holland, and that was just fantastic. Germany, like the German gigs we did, just showed us, wow, there's this whole other world, and these people, these audiences, like big audiences that really just love this, this folky kind of punky indie kind of thing. They love it. They love what we do anyway, whatever you want to call it. But and so we did, we did really well in Germany, and we did well in Switzerland a bit later, and then we used to go to, and we lived sort of frugally in squats in Holland, and we'd play a bit in Holland, but not too much, and then we'd tour in Germany every sort of twice a year sort of thing, and then between that we'd go over to the east, the wall had just kind of come down, and there was, we used to go to Czech Republic a lot, and to Poland, and we went to Hungary, and we did some tours over there in the just sort of to play. We never got, like, the money was really bad, but at least we could sort of play.
Yeah.
And be, you know, and have a bed for the night and have a feed, you know. So we did a lot of that. Yeah, we did a lot of that, actually. Too much of it. I can't remember a lot of it because it was pretty wild times, some of them. But I know one of the other pumpkins has been threatening to write a book for years, but haven't seen it yet. I think there's too many. I think there's too many damning sort of things that have changed. So, yeah. Anyway.
So over the years, you've never really been afraid to move your home base for the sake of your work. Do you think, looking at some of your contemporaries, that may be something that holds some of them back, their unwillingness to go out of their comfort zone?
I don't know. I don't know. You'd have to ask them. I don't know about that. Like, I mean, we were just. I mean, I don't know how I would have done it. You know, different members of the band were more into it than others. You know, and it was just a matter of who was kind of driving what was going on, you know, like, I know I was hell-bent on just keeping on moving, but then I had it was different for me because I had Mel, who was our sound engineer and an equal member of the band and did a lot of our leggy sort of stuff. Her and I were partners for the first sort of 8 years of Pumpkin, so I kind of carried my little family around with me, so it was really easy for me to just move and to have, you know, and to go here and there and everywhere. But for the other guys, I think it was a lot harder because they, you know, they had girlfriends and lives and stuff in different places, so they had to, it was harder for them. And that was always quite a tension. And that would be a tension for any band, you know. Like, I can imagine that, you know, like, especially the more people, like, say if there's 5 guys in a band and, you know, then there's 5 partners or, you know, wives or some children or not, you know, depending on their age. And then, you know, like, to move all those people from one place to another is really hard. We were small, you know, we were small, and then, and the driving force to want to move was insulated in a kind of family situation within it. So we just sort of pulled the others along with us, and I mean that was largely why Deb couldn't stay with the band, is because she had to make a choice between her husband and her band, you know, and the husband, you know, had to come first, and that's how it kind of went, you know. Or we would have just stayed in Tasmania, you know, which she did, and she came back to Tasmania and lives there and is very happy here, you know. So very difficult, John. But for people, especially coming from remote areas, which, you know, Tasmania, and then you realise, oh, Australia's really remote as well. We never knew that left. But, you know, coming from remote areas, these are sacrifices that an artist, you know, a musician has to sort of make. But I don't know, it's all different now, you know, like, you know, back then there was no internet, and there was no, like, the world was a much, much bigger place, and you kind of had to go. You had to leave if you wanted to do anything or something. Yeah, so I can't speak for anyone else, but that's my story of it.
Was there much of a homesickness factor that brought you back home to Australia?
There was for me, actually, for sure. And I had a homesickness for Tasmania all the time as well, you know, but look, it's a double kind of thing. I mean, you know, you want to get away from it and you want to be back there, you know. When you're away from it, you want to be back there. When you're back there, you want to be away again. I mean, I don't know, like, I think you'd have to speak to the others. I think there probably was. You know, I mean, Dan's situation is, like, you know, because we left in 1990 to go over to Europe and basically based there right up until the band kind of didn't tour anymore after 1998. It kind of, we consciously disbanded in 1998. So we had 7 or 8 years of having a band based in Europe, and we came back here, and that was largely because, you know, later on, especially in, you know, about 1994, Dan kind of took over a lot of the management and stuff of what we did, you know, the logistics of that. And he, you know, he was he was married, and he's got 2 kids. His eldest kid, like he was the first one to have kids, and he had Joey in 1994. So he's like 18 now, and they're based over there. So I mean, he's always felt. I think I can speak for him when he's always felt that push and pull, and that, I mean, I think that's largely a lot of what is underlying in and drives and sort of informs his music and his inspirations in his solo career and stuff. Is that living over there and wanting to be back here, or that sense of distance from home. It's a big thing. It is.
Yeah.
But, you make those choices for your family or whatever, and I think those people that you might have asked me in the question before about, I think they probably made the same choice to stay in Melbourne or wherever. I mean, there were so many great bands in the mid-'80s. I mean, there is now too. There's always great bands around, but I can think of a few really great bands that would have done heaps better than us in Europe, if they had been able to move or whatever, But yeah, it's interesting thinking about it.
So for you personally,
I don't think about it all much these days, John. All that,
Yeah.
I don't think so. It is interesting to think about it. I don't reflect too much. I try and just stay in the present and move forward,
Fair enough too. For you personally, was there a final last straw that convinced you it was time to put the band to rest?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it'd been coming. I mean, it was that thing, really, where Dan was based in Holland, and he wasn't going anywhere, and I needed to be based here for basically for personal reasons, but, for my life and stuff. And so it was just becoming impractical. Like in 97, we did one tour. We made our last album. We did one tour of Europe, and we made our last album in Melbourne, and then we did our last tour of Europe in 1998. But we didn't even promote that record at all in Australia. We didn't even release it in Australia, actually. We didn't. And that was largely because it was sort of finished. It was just. I mean, things just come to their natural end, and it just was requiring more and more effort and energy to keep something together. We had a record contract, our last contract, which was for the last album and the second last album and the last album with Hot Records. We had that, but they kind of our relationship with them kind of soured after the first record that we did with them didn't really do much for whatever reason. I mean, like a number of reasons, like so many. It didn't do much, and then they weren't too keen on the last album that we made, but we'd already wanted to make the album, and we'd already started it and stuff. And so we made it and finished it anyway. And then by the time we finished it, they kind of said, well, we're not doing it. Which was just, like, I mean, now I can see it from their point of view. I mean, they just have to do what they do. We had a verbal contract. It was all matey, and, it was good people. There's nothing wrong with them, but it was realistic for them to go, no, well, we're not going to do this film. So, that kind of stuff happened a lot on our labels, It happened on the label before too, a label called Survival. It just, it's really hard to sell. It was really hard to sell records. I mean, it must be even harder now, like for bands where we were at then, like it must be so hard. I mean, well, it is, so you just you got to do other things. You got to earn you got to earn live, and you got to earn downloads and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it just naturally came to the end where the effort to keep it going was just. I mean, we're all really you know, good friends. We're all really good friends, but we don't see each other very much because we live in different places and stuff. But we ended with the respect and the love that that the whole life and experience of being in a band for 15 years together, you know, we reflected that, and that was the best thing, you know. Like, I think if we had tried to keep it going or whatever, you know, it would have been a lot harder to leave feeling really, or to leave it feeling like it, like we love the people, like we, you know, I mean, things just come to a natural end with people. Relationships come to a natural end, don't they? And you either recognise it and do it, you know, or you stay on and flog a dead horse, and that's what it would have been for us. Maybe we would have come up again, and you know, because we all had, as artists, individually and collectively, you know, our songwriting and our output and stuff, we got a lot better. You know, we had really improved. I mean, we would have only got better and better as a band. I mean, Nick Larkins, who joined the band in 1994, who became a kind of, you know, the lead guitar. He's the lead guitar and lead instrument player, and also, you know, really positive, you know, fresh energy in the band, and great creative collaborator and songwriter in his own right. And you know, he would have kept going and with us, you know, but we had been a lot longer and stuff, and I think it might have come around again, and we would have done. Yeah, I mean, as artists, we were only growing and getting better as musicians and artists. So, but I think that the distance, just sort of the distance, and the fact that we hadn't sold any records.
But just the same, surviving for 15 years as an independent band, and still 15 years later, here we are, the band's still fondly remembered. It must be something you look back on with pride.
Oh, well, that's really great, and it's great that you know, someone like yourself who wants to talk about it and remembers it fondly, and that's awesome. And you know, I was recently visiting my mum in Tasmania, and I catch up with a few friends there, and you know, a friend of mine who's kind of old school, he just got an iPhone, and you know, and was realising the possibilities of putting all his music on there and stuff, and he showed me a couple of tracks that he put on there, and he told me a couple of stories about, well, when I'm going to this particular place and doing this thing, I always listen to this song, and it just, you know, and that I mean, just someone who you love and respect saying that to you really makes you go, oh yeah, well, that was worth doing that, you know. It was worth it, and yeah, you're right. It's I do all the pain and the disappointment and the heartache and the, you know, the dislocation and the striving and all that stuff that goes with being in an independent band. You know, you forget all that stuff, and you just remember the love and the camaraderie and the good stuff you have with those people that you shared so much of life with, and the music. You know, some of the songs live on. You know, for individuals and few people, and that's awesome. You know, like, I'm always surprised when people want to talk about Wild Punks at Midnight, because it feels like another life of mine. Even though I do the same thing, John, I still, like, I work with kids now. I teach at a primary school, teach music, and I do kids music, and I work with kids, and you know, I jam with kids, and I'm in the room, and you know, I get right off on kids, you know, when their eyes light up and they realise, wow, yeah, I can play, and we're playing together, and we're doing this thing, and you know, I'm still doing the same thing, but I can't. I just it seems like a long time ago. But I was talking to Mel not so long ago, and we both agree, you know, we were both sort of saying how many different skills and different aspects of life, techniques and ways that we learnt without knowing that we were learning, by being together in a van, driving around Australia or Europe, doing gigs day after day. Like we learned all these skills that we're applying. Like she actually works in far north Queensland in the council as the environment officer or something like that. I don't know exact title, but so she's working with people all the time in all kinds of talking about liaising with different members of the community about buildings and different things, and being in terms of making them environmentally compatible and the impact of them and that kind of thing, and representing the council in that way. I'm not sure what the title is, but she was saying to me how much all these different ways of negotiating with people to get what she wants, and dealing with different kind of personalities and everything. All that stuff she learned. Trying to get a fallback send in a PA, with two guys who don't speak a word of English, that are standing there in their leather pants going, "What's this 5-foot girl trying to do?" Like things like that. So, and I said, like I've learned. I can't even begin to tell you, John, how much I've learnt from being with those people. So that, and I'm trying to get the music out there, and and all the practical stuff, making records and recording music and capturing all that sort of thing, all the practical sort of stuff that I still apply now. But it's a lot of the people stuff that being with the same people and being with good people. I mean, Dan and Mel, who the three of us were the ones that sort of, it was Dan and Mel and Deb and I, then it was Dan and Mel and Ashley and I, and then Dan and Mel and Greg and I, then there was Dan and Mel and Greg and Nick and I. So those combinations of people, like they're just incredible people, like they have all their, that combination. We had our arguments and our dummy spits and our all sorts of stuff. But at the end of the day, the gig went on, and we sang the songs, and yeah. I mean, I reckon you could ask any band member of a band that's lasted for any amount of time, and they would say the same things. It's a really special kind of family kind of love and respect when you work with the same people over time. And there's a lot of opportunity to learn about all kinds of things, but especially about yourself. And I can't think of a better way to grow up, really. As dysfunctional as it was.
I'll talk about your post-Pumpkins life. What in general inspired you to move into music for kids?
Oh, it just happened. I did a few projects after the Pumpkins. I worked with Dan Roomer a bit on a few things, and I had my own band called the Durga Babies, and we didn't go anywhere, but we made some fantastic music and made a really cool album and played around for a couple of years up here with a lot of appreciation from quite a lot of people and stuff. That was good. And then I as I had from about the early 90s or mid 90s, I had been interested in meditation and yoga, and so I just kept pursuing that, where it led me to spending more lengthy times in India in an ashram there. And the last time, about 2004, I think it was, I was there for a longer period of time. And I guess kids' music, where it started was having my daughter, Leela, and that's basically why, one of the reasons I stopped wanted to stay where I was, because I wanted to stay here with my daughter. She was born in 1999, the year after the Pumpkins. She was conceived in the back of the van on the last tour. And I came back. I didn't know that because I was heading off to India, and then I was on the phone to her mum, who was her mum, and she told me that she was pregnant. And so I decided to come back here and have Leela. And then when Leela was about 2 or 3, I went back to India, and I started working with children in nearby villages of where I was staying in this ashram. And I started working with this little school that just started, and I ran the music program there, and I've just continued to go back there every year or 2 years, at least every 2 years. Probably I've been back there about, 6 or 7 times since then. And it's basically a school called Learning Space, which is about a few hours north of Mumbai in Maharashtra, in the tribal region, with quite a number of disadvantaged children who didn't have as much access to education, and especially arts education. So we kind of developed a program and teaching English with music and songs, and we made some CDs, and then I actually brought some recordings back here, and was working on a surf project in Sydney with Dan Rumer, and the producers of that had listened to what I'd recorded with the kids and really loved it, and they put significant amount of money into the project of me going back there and working further with the kids and developing the program and songs and stuff. And then we came back here and recorded stuff over there with a lot of Indian musicians in Mumbai and stuff, and then we came back over here and finished it off and released it as Michael Turner and the Peaceful Stars. But we never actually released it properly. It sort of didn't get as much national kind of release as I sort of thought it would. I think there was a number of reasons for that, but anyway, I was pretty proud of it. And then a few years later, I made another album about 3 years ago. I was living in a cubby house on a little rainforest remnant with a whole lot of animals, and I wrote a whole lot of songs about the animals, which is very interesting because that's the first Wild Pumpkins at Midnight EP. When I think about it, was all about animals.
Ah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, well, not all of it, but there was quite a few songs that was. And anyway, this album we put out called Spiky and Friends. And I don't know if have you got that there, John?
No, I haven't. No, I've heard the material. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Yeah. So yeah, I do that, and I'm not out to make it big in the kids market or anything, even though some people think I ought to be, or I think that might be. We did actually a couple of years ago when we went and did these kids festivals, with all the with the ABC kind of stars, and Angelina Ballerina and all these kind of, basically people dressed up in puppets miming little shows to CDs, And it was quite fun. We were the only live act though, so it was a bit. We were good, but it was a bit challenging actually.
And from what I've seen, you're a tad more edgy and a little bit more rock and roll than your standard children's music.
Yeah, that's right. And kids love kids around here love it. I mean, where I teach, we've got some. We've had the kids there of 10cc, Wolf's Mother, Living End, all these different, cool bands of kids that come from big band kind of rock and roll royalty. So that plus lots of other kids that don't. And we like to do lots of rock and roll. It's cool. Kids love rock and roll.
Yeah. One would expect kids as an audience to be easier to engage than your average pub rock crowd. Is that the case generally, or do they have their moments as well?
Oh no! Look, you got to get it right. Otherwise, no, they can be as hard as anyone. They can be harder. If they don't like you, they'll just say, "I don't like you." They won't stand there and act it out or whatever. They'll just say, "I don't like you, Mummy. I'm scared." We had one little kid. We played a gig in Melbourne a year or two ago. I don't know when it was. It was at down there by the Yarra somewhere in a very, very nice venue actually. And one little kid, when Spikey came out, one little kid just ran to their mum so quickly and went, Mummy, I'm scared. Because Spikey's a big, we have a big mascot. It's a beautiful mascot actually. It's a big, furry Spikey with big spikes on it. And it's beautiful, but it could be scary, I think, too.
Yeah.
It's got a big long nose. It's got a big long nose and big eyes. And, yeah. It's not your average kind of mascot where they all look just like
cute and cuddly.
It's more real,
Yeah.
It more reflects the country. Yeah.
True.
Another thing I've been doing, John, is I started working with Music Outback some years ago, which is going out to remote Indigenous communities, offering music, songwriting and band work and singing and stuff. So I haven't been doing any of that this year, but the last few years I've been going out to northwest and South Australia and to the Arngemiri country, Pitjantjatjara speaking people, in a place called Pitjantjatjara, and then I've been going also to one of our New South Wales rural ghettos, which is full of lovely, lovely people. Walgett's been going out there too.
Fantastic.
So, yeah, it is. It's been a big... it's something that the Wild Pumpkins always... we did a few of those. We did a few projects like that. We always wanted to do more. And, we did a few projects. We did another thing that the Wild Pumpkins did that everyone skipped over is that after that This Machine Is Made of People, we came and lived in Brisbane for 3 months and worked with street kids and kids in juvenile detention and wrote a bunch of songs with them as well. But unfortunately, that project never got the funds to finish it. Like This Machine Is Made, we didn't get the money to record the album, so the songs kind of just one or two songs made it on. Two songs kind of made it on later Pumpkin releases, but not. It was never a whole project that. It probably, in hindsight, the other things that I regret, not so much. I regret all kinds of things if I think about it for long enough. But I regret that we didn't spend more time finishing that project, and that we kind of raced off. We raced off to Europe a little bit prematurely. In hindsight, we probably should have stayed and finished that project because it was really great. The kids' songs were they were really special, and it was good. I've sort of picked it up later in life. I've picked up doing more of that stuff now in the last sort of 10 years rather than 20 years ago when it was in front of me. But they're the most, some of the most rewarding memories I have in the Wild Pumpkins are those. I love This Machine Is People, and I love Made of People, and I loved working with the kids in Brisbane. It was awesome. That's when I first met Margie. Actually, you know Margie?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's when we all met. All her crew and stuff living in Brisbane. And we did that project. Yeah, small world.
Brilliant. Yeah. So just before I let you go, Michael, upcoming plans. What's going to be keeping you busy in the foreseeable future?
What I'm doing right now is I'm working on I'm the musical director for the school's end of year performance. So I write all the music or collect all the music for. We put on a we put on a show every year, which is like a play and it's a musical basically, and we do 2 nights in the Broughton Community Theatre, where parents and everyone come. It's great. The theatre holds about 300, and we fill it 2 nights, and the kids do the performance. They do the acting, singing, dancing, help make the little multimedia sort of things, and they're all in the band as well. And this year we're doing the incredible Ernie's incredible hallucinations about this kid whose imagination creates things. So he's walking along, and he will imagine. He gets asked by a teacher, "Could you take this to this teacher?" And then he imagines that he's in the jungle on a safari, and then the stage turns into a safari, and all these jungle animals come out, and we sing a song and do a dance, and then it sort of goes like that. So I'm in the middle of just finding all the songs and rewriting some and writing some others, and it's the theme, the musical sort of genre is soul this year. So
wow.
I'm heavily influenced by Sly and Family of Stone, and also James Brown and stuff. So yeah, we got some really talented 10 and 11-year-olds who sing and play and stuff. So yeah, so that'll keep me busy for the next sort of. I do a day a week on that until the end of year, and then I just do my usual classes and stuff. And I also work in an Indigenous men's rehab, running a music program, and I've done that for the last sort of nearly 8 years, and that keeps me pretty busy as well. It's like a music. We sing, we play, we write, we jam. It's like relaxed kind of part of their program, but it's quite deep therapy actually, and because there's a lot of guys, Indigenous guys who need a program like we have at Namatjira Haven, and yeah, that's great. I have a good time with the fellows. We sing, and there's a lot of talent that comes through, and it's great to watch them. When they've only sang in the park, charged up, to realise they can actually sing, clean and sober, and it can be a great way back to themselves, or a great beginning, and also it can be just sort of time out from the relentless kind of social and family shit that they're sort of dealing with, like many of us have to deal with at different times, So that's really rewarding, John. So that keeps me pretty busy, and the rest of the time, I'm working on another kids album, which I don't have any timeline on, and I'm not putting any deadlines on it. So, I've been working on it for I don't know how long, but I'll put it out at some stage. But I live next to some of the best surf beaches in Australia, so the surf's pumping. It's hard to, and I've got a little boat. I've been going out and visiting the whales, because the whales have been coming past, and it's pretty magic. I've got a pretty magic life, and then parenting. Yeah, it's just life going on. I don't have any big visions of this and that, and now I'm on the board of Music Outback now, so I help. I help with making some decisions about this and that kind of work, which is really rewarding as well. Because until I kind of went out to some of the Indigenous communities, I really didn't know what Australia was. I didn't really know. I mean, I saw it on television, I read about it, I heard about it, but I didn't really know about Australia. I didn't know what Australia actually is, what we call Australia, and this other country and these other communities, these other worlds that are, that are living and going on out there. It's really revelationary, actually. Mm. So it's great to be able to be part of a positive white fella influence, through through, with ancient arts-based cultures, to be able to play music and connect with people playing music. It's a great language, and it's I feel very privileged that the music, I'm able to communicate with music because it transcends all the other languages, And we always found that in the Wild Pumpkins when we went to places that hardly speak English and stuff. It was always able to connect, connect with people. Yeah.
Always gets through. Yep.
It gets through. Yeah. It's a privilege to have that, to have the gift of being able to be part of that. It really is. So I guess my future holds just continuation of honouring that privilege, as much as wherever that leads,
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, I've got to thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure to catch up with you.
No worries, John.
Fantastic.
What are you doing?